Okie dokie. Welcome to the Hangout. I'm about to pull Deconverted Man in here, but before I do, I want to let you guys know what's going on. I've been trying to set this up for a while, but shit's come up. We've had delays, misunderstandings in time. But basically, I'm going to be interviewing one of my favorite YouTubers, Deconverted Man. He deals a lot with logical fallacies, and my favorite series of his is actually the logical fallacy counter series, where he puts up a little counter, and him and sometimes a guest will go through different videos and count the number of logical fallacies in the videos. Um, the other thing he has is the 1 minute skeptic, which we'll get into that. But basically, he invites people on to explain in 1 minute a question that theists or other weird people tend to have. So I'm going to invite him now, and I hope you enjoy the cast. Doop 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 doop. Doop 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 doop. Waiting on deconverted man, verted man, verted man. Waiting on deconverted man, waiting on him now. Do 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 do. While we wait, I'm going to. Oh, there he is. Deconverted, is that you? Okay, I'm having trouble hearing you. Hello? Oh, okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to go on the Book of Faces and let people know that this is finally going on. Ladies and gentlemen, Deconverted Man has entered the digital building. Click this.
Unmute. There we go.
Aha!
I was trying a new microphone thingy and it wasn't working. I blame Matt Slick.
It's always his fault. He
He said
screwed
it.
up our last thing, caused confusion amongst the ranks.
Right. Are we're live? Is this gonna be a thing?
Yes, absolutely live right now.
Deconverted man here. There, I said it. Now you can do stuff.
I've been waiting for that. Okay, well, this has been an interesting experience trying to get this all set up. First, we had our confusion, and then we were supposed to do this yesterday, and well, shit went down, and I was unable to show up. But now we're here.
It's a miracle. Thank the lobster original deity. Thank you, God. It's all you.
Give me 1 second while I finish.
Time's up.
I'm sorry, what?
You said
Time's up. You son of a bitch. You're almost as much of a smartass as me.
I can't give you a second. It doesn't really exist. It's just a concept in my brain. I don't know what he's doing. I'm going to keep talking while he's gone.
I'm texting somebody.
Wow, this is a great... This will have to all be edited later.
You can deal with that.
Oh, thanks. I don't want this. This is going on your channel. I don't know
It
what to
is
do.
on my channel.
I
We're
don't
up.
know where this is going. I don't know what will happen.
Yep. Anyway, as you can tell, very unprepared at the moment. I'm still opening stuff up and dealing with
Maybe
all
you should
the.
go off air and then go back on air when you're ready.
Nah, fuck that. Let people see what goes on behind the scenes. Anyway, um, so I want to set this up as a kind of a mini interview. So I'm gonna let you ramble and talk about yourself for a minute.
All right.
So you go under the handle Deconverted Man, which
Yes.
that gives me the idea that you have deconverted from something.
Yeah.
Um, you mind giving us an idea about your religious background, what you came from?
Well, I used
Before
to
you
be a
found logic.
journalist, but no. Okay. I was a Christian from the age of 8 to the age of 32. We primarily went to a Lutheran church when I was growing up, and as a teenager, I went to Hillside Covenant Church. I guess it's Covenant, might be a denomination, maybe it's just the name of their church. I don't know. Offhand, I was very involved in the youth group there, and eventually, as I got older, I kind of gravitated more away from the youth group and spent a little bit more time in the Great Questions of the Faith Bible study uh, that was hosted by this gentleman that memorized the entire Bible. He had the whole thing literally memorized, so he could pull up verses just out of his head. It was quite amazing. Um, and we would ask different questions about the Bible, and he would have different prepared answers or answers that he kind of pulled from different verses in the Bible. And that was a thing I did for quite some time. As an adult, I bounced around different churches because I moved around a little bit. I wound up not being able to find a church when I was in Texas too much. Then I went to a Pentecostal church at one point, was there for a while, and before realizing that it really wasn't the place for me, although I enjoyed the oddness of it, and they they danced and they would praise a lot, and it was fun in that way that you could let yourself go and do whatever in that sense. But there was a lot of to it as well. Um, so for a while, I guess I was churchless during that time in Texas, and then later I moved again to Colorado and went to different churches there, Baptist churches, non-denominational. I went to a Church of Christ, left that, and then maintained a attendance at a non-denominational, sort of Baptist-ish church. It's always tough when you get into the non-denominational churches trying to categorize them. And I was there until I deconverted. Basically, I even went there as basically a skeptic. That I still was not quite didn't have the handle on what it was that I was doing or didn't believe in, but I just remember trying to sit in the service feeling miserable listening to people give testimonials of things that happened to them that God has done for them, and just feeling like this doesn't make any sense. This is just coincidence in this one case. This other case, this guy had said, "Oh, I've been out of work for 19 years or some ridiculous amount of time. It might have been 9 years. I misremember. And now I finally have a job, thank God." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that sure took a while, you know." But I
I bet you
left.
what led up to him getting the job was
I
going out and filling out job applications.
Yeah,
Not
for nine
supposed to
years.
just
I mean,
fill out job
if you're
applications.
hacking away for 9 years or 19 years or whatever it was, I think it was 9 years. Again, I misremember, but it was a long time at any rate. Yeah, so totally was God. It had nothing to do with him trying to get work. Of course. Anyway, so I was really I left. Was outside. I was very irritated, and I didn't go back to church after that. That time. Um, but what happened as far as losing my faith and deconverting
That
into
was my next question.
into a skeptic was basically I had done I'd been on YouTube. I've been on YouTube for almost since it first was around, I think, doing miscellaneous random videos. I had a channel, deleted it, had a different channel, got rid of that, then settled on a channel that did randomness and did that for years, and then decided, hey, I should talk about my faith. I should talk about Christianity. I should talk about this wonderful experience of God that I have, because I don't want anyone to miss out. And so I made a channel called Infinite Hope, and I did that for at least a year, if not more. And I got all sorts of questions from atheists, those pesky skeptics and whatnot, asking me different things. And I would talk about, I would talk about all that sort of stuff, and I would try to answer the questions. I even had a kind of a claim to fame. I got this sort of apologist guy that's not known at all, Douglas. Oh, I forget his last name now, but he had a few really mega popular videos on YouTube, about 1 million views each, or somewhere around that number. And his name is even in the credits of the apologetic study Bible. So he was kind of like he was like my claim to fame to have been able to interview him on my channel and stuff like this. But all these questions I kept getting, I was like, how do I answer this, and what are they asking? So I started actually paying attention to what people were asking for. And also, I did this thing where I did an experiment where I pretended to be an atheist and made a separate channel where I called myself Finite Despair, and I tried to talk to Shock of God. Well, that was not a good idea. If anyone's going to deconvert you, it's going to be that guy, because he's not a good person. Leave it at that. I don't have anything nice to say about his persona. And he's all about promoting himself. He's really not about promoting God. Even as a Christian, I could see that. And I went after him to make fun of him, and he couldn't even get that I was making fun of him. And he kept not calling me by the name that I'd picked, Finite Despair. He kept changing the name, and it just enraged me, and I said, something is wrong, something is broken here, and it's not just him. And I wasn't going to use that as anything, but I looked at everything that I had seen so far, everything that I'd done, and I said, okay, I don't know what to do. I need to stop doing my channel for a while. I need to go study. So the main thing that those pesky skeptics kept asking for was evidence. And so I was talking to Christians, asking questions. I said, where's this evidence? And somebody had said, and I'd heard this more than once, we have the evidence. Even if we give it to them, they're not going to believe it. And I'm like, well, let's just do that. They keep asking for it. Why haven't we given it to them? Don't say, oh, I have it, but I'm not going to give it to you. That's just childish. Give it to them. And then when they say, I don't believe you, then you can stomp all over them and be like, well, we gave it to you and all that. So nobody wanted to do this, so I was going to do it. So I researched into the history of Christianity, the Bible, the times, the dates, the archaeological stuff. All that stuff took me at least a year of looking at different books, different websites, different ideas back and forth, and I found not just no evidence, which was bad, but I found that when there was evidence, it had been falsified, and that there was actually counter evidence to many, if not all, of the various stories in the Bible. No worldwide flood, no, the Egyptians didn't have as many slaves as they're purported to. There weren't as many Jewish people at that time. All these sort of things. Oh, there was probably no Nazareth. It's just little problems like this.
Jericho.
Yeah.
Jericho was my favorite. When I was doing the research into evidence for the Bible and historical accuracy of the Bible, the story of the city of Jericho was by far my favorite thing because so many people brought that up to me. Oh, we found Jericho. We have all this proof.
Yeah, they found it like 5 times or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been found again. Yeah, Noah's Ark had been found like at least 4 or 5 times, and the one guy did this documentary, went to this mountain that this guy owns, a mountain. I guess you can do that in some countries, and he wouldn't
That's
let him
just
go.
square footage.
Huh?
I said it's just square footage. That's all.
Well, yeah, but it was like he had this fortress on this mountain. It's very odd. I don't know. It's just found
Know
it
who
odd.
you're talking about too. Yes.
And so he supposedly has Noah's Ark, but he wouldn't let the documentarian go the rest of the way to his house to see it. He just said, "No, I have it, and I'm not going to let you go any further. This is as far up the mountain as we go." I'm like, "What?" So, it's just kind of like, I've got this thing, but I'm not going to show you again. So over and over again, I kept hitting this brick wall of no evidence, or I got a handful of kings and a handful of locations. That was it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not out there. I might have missed something, and I'm just waiting for somebody to show me what I missed, but that fell apart. So I had nothing there. So I had no evidence. I said, okay, well, what about the arguments? Because there's this whole thing, apologetics. So I got super into apologetics. Got the Apologetic Study Bible. I listened to William Lane Craig. I looked at all the different things, and I thought, oh, this is great. This is going to save my faith. This is it. I'm going to roll with this. All right. And then I started learning logic.
Whoops.
Oops, yeah, big mistake. Because the more I learned, the more and more I saw that the arguments didn't work, and I'm like, okay, no, that's. And then the more I learned about science, the more I understood how the arguments didn't work even more so. So I'm like, okay, so I have no evidence, I have no argument. All I have left is just pure faith. Just believe because believe. And in that moment of desperation where I was curled up into kind of the fetus position in my room, crying in the corner, crying my eyes out, painful tears, like they physically hurt to cry, asking God for this specific thing, which I called a zap. Now, this actually has some precedent, so I have to explain it a little bit, because people will say, oh, God was testing you and stuff like this. And of course they did say that. When I was lying in bed and I would pray and I would ask God to zap me, I would have this sensation from the top of my skull all the way down to my feet. And it would happen every time that I asked for it. So there was no reason for me to think that now that I needed this most, to be reassured that God loved me, cared about me, etc., nothing happened. Nothing. And then I started asking for signs, anything, nothing. And I heard things like, God is testing him. Like, this is not the time to test me. I heard this, which was great. God gave you the sign, but you missed it. And I'm like, that's stupid. That's like the stupidest thing ever. It's God. It would know that I had missed the sign, and it would give me another one. How? That just, and so these lackluster answers just weren't enough, and I came to the conclusion that if there was a God, either didn't care about me or didn't have enough power to show me, or a combination thereof. And without any evidence, without any tests, and without God itself giving me something, I had to let go. I had to not believe, and it was emotionally painful. I don't wish that emotional pain on anybody. Some people have deconverted with great joy. Some people have deconverted without any emotion at all. Mine happened to be negative in nature. And then I started being a skeptic and learning more about logic and more about science and more about what it is to be a skeptic and trying to continue to give myself more knowledge through reading and doing that sort of self-education. And that's, I suppose, the short and long of how I got from there to here.
Okay. That was long of the short. I don't. I tend to ramble myself. It's really hard for me to.
Well, yeah, it's hard to
Wrap it
compress
up.
that story down. So,
Yeah.
I
Well,
have done that in longer version on my channel at some point, but it was like a year ago now, so nobody will remember.
well,
Um,
after that, did you look into anything other than Christianity at all?
that is one of those things where I've wanted to look at the various different religions and their teachings. There's a couple problems like with Muslim with Muslim ideas. Basically, they said that you can read the Quran in English, but it only matters if you read it in the original language for some reason.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like
Well, there.
it's
I'm actually.
magical once you read it in their language. So I'm like, I'm not going to learn another language just to read a book. Either I'm going to read this in English and it's going to make sense to me or not. So that kind of was off the table at that point. Hinduism has a lot of different scrolls, a lot of different teaching, but most of their stuff comes from the gurus. Finding a Hindu guru in America is not going to happen. So it's just kind of, it's there, but if it's true, it also kind of doesn't matter because I'm just going to get reincarnated anyways and going to have another shot at this. So there really isn't a reason. There isn't like anything to motivate me to really look deeper into it. Although I'm interested in that stuff, I just I'm not interested quite enough yet. But it's like okay, it's on my list of things to eventually get to. But the primary thing that I have looked for is a logically coherent argument from anybody of any faith of any type of anybody that wants to say X is something that you should look into, investigate further, has to give me a coherent argument from start to finish to get to X. So let's say that you were able to come up with that for uh, UFOs coming to Earth. I would then investigate further into this idea. But until somebody gives me that, I have no reason to investigate it at all. So I just am skeptical of it until I find that or someone gives it to me, one or the other.
Okay then. Um. Well, after your deconversion, I'm assuming that you started going to church with your family because you said you started at
Uh,
8.
no,
Um.
no. I stopped when I was an adult. My mom and my brother and all that were all over the place country wise. So, yeah, but I just didn't go. And when I told my brother, he was well. My brother kind of figured it out by what I was saying when I first moved in with him, and then later on I told my mom and told her in person, and she was fine. I mean, she kind of didn't get it, but she accepted where I was, and my brother also accepts that, which is good because I've heard a lot of horror stories about people that where their family just doesn't accept it.
Oh yeah, especially in faiths like the Jehovah's Witnesses and whatnot.
Yeah,
I personally know a few who, when you leave that faith, they completely push you out. Your friends
right,
aren't allowed to talk to you. They can't even look you in the eye.
right. There's just you're gone at that point. Um, so yeah, this is something that my brother and I, over the time that we've been living together, have really gotten our relationship as brothers has been incredible as adults. There was some great times as kids, and some not good times as adolescents, and now we've kind of come to really great times where we can have these deep, meaningful talks, or we can just talk about absolutely nothing. We can disagree on points, and he totally understands where I'm coming from, and I totally understand where he's coming from. And as far as theist goes, he's like the most open-minded theist that I'm aware of. A second place would be Epi from YouTube, Epicurus Greek, although he has some way to go, I think, with understanding logic. But nonetheless, these are examples of what I would like theists to be, and and how I don't care if people believe in God as much as I do that they use logic and they don't deny science. Those are the things that irritate me. My brother wants to create a logical argument for God. He's actually trying to make a new one rather than just repeat the old ones over and over again like all these other guys and gals do. So that sort of desire is what I hope to get people that are theistic to gravitate towards. It will work for me. It might not work for a different skeptic because most, or I should say many skeptics want just the empirical evidence or just a repeatable test, and that's it. For me, I add in the logically coherent argument bit, which is another way for me to know uh, what's going on.
So I'm glad that that was not such a painful experience as many people have. Personally, I was basically the same. My family figured out that I was an atheist before I figured out I was an atheist.
Now you're asking a lot of questions. Well, that seems to be the route of destruction, if you will. That once you start on that, I'm going to go where the evidence leads rather than where I want it to go.
Yeah.
That seems to be the end of theology.
Well, I blame my grandfather. My grandfather always told me, keep an open mind. If you have a question, ask the questions. And I ended up demolishing my Sunday school teachers at a young age. And eventually my grandfather was like, if you don't want to go to church, you don't have to. And I was like, sweet! I get to stay home and watch cartoons in my underwear. This is back in Darkwing Duck days.
Yeah, I mean, but my goal, my desire on YouTube, as far as doing my channel goes, is really to teach informal logic by means of example. Of course, I do other things other than that, but that's the primary goal slash focus. And it just so happens, for whatever reason, that theology has the most ready access to logical fallacies performed uh, by various people. For whatever reason, don't know why. It doesn't mean anything. It's just that's the case. If it was politics, I'd be going after politics. But the problem with politics is you actually have to know a lot of things before you can comment on it. And the second problem is it's filled with logical fallacies, and the debates are not debates. They're talking points. I don't know why they call it a debate when it's not a debate, but whatever, anyways.
Well, the third issue with politics is you have to be ready to dodge a punch at any moment.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's very, like I said, you really have to know your stuff. Karen S., another YouTube friend of mine, had a blog where she was fact-checking various political stuff, and it was so good, so well-researched, so much data collected that they actually said, we don't want you to somebody important politics-wise said, we don't want you to shut your blog down. We need this because you have all this data that we don't have. We're using your blog as our data collection source. So that's kind of the thing that that's where to go. Go with the data. What does the data say? Not with what the politicians are saying. How has this guy or gal voted in the past? And can we predict that they're going to go do that again in the future? Well, yes or no, and that's where it gets tricky. But I mean, the bottom line, as far as political structure, at least here in America, I think that the special interests need to go to make it less corrupt. It will still be corrupt, but it'll be less corrupt without the special interest groups. So the politic funding maybe should be like a general thing to pull from rather than something.
Have you heard of Wolfpack?
No, not off the top of my head.
Wolfpack it's not like a super PAC style thing. It's a group that's trying to actually remove lobbying and remove private funding from American politics. You should look them up.
Yeah.
Just Google it, Wolf PAC.
All right. Yeah, that. I'll put that in the magic window. PAC, not PAK.
Yeah, PAC, not PAK.
All right, very well. I'll look into that. But that's about the interest of politics. But
Yeah.
So informal logic and looking at different theistic stuff online and just saying, okay, here's the fallacies, here's why that's a fallacy, here's why that does this and how it could work, and here's a potential way to fix the argument, etc., etc. And that's it. That's the essence of the Deconverted Man channel when I'm not doing
Well,
pointless or
how
silly
did
stuff.
I noticed that you've pointed out fallacies that I actually never came across in my time searching YouTube for logical argumentation skills and all that good, wonderful crap. What kind of studies have you done for logical fallacies? Is it all personal stuff? Did you go to school?
No, yeah, it's all self-taught. I would recommend Douglas Walton's Informal Logic, a Pragmatic Approach. Um, and let's see, who is this by? Let me get this author because I don't have it memorized. Logically Fallacious by. 1 second.
Yeah, if you could throw
What's
some
his
of these
name?
up in the chat here.
By Bo Bennett. There we go. I wanted to be able to say it. Yeah, I can put in the text as well, so we can put that on the
Yeah, put
video.
some of that up so I can put it in the
I'll put it in
description.
the magic window. Logically delicious. No, that's not what it says. That would be great, wouldn't it?
How's your keyboard while you're doing?
Logically delicious fallacies, but this is a 300 different fallacies that he has collected. I would take this book with a grain of salt. Not all of them are legitimate in the sense that you wouldn't find them in debates in colleges, but most of them are. The Douglas Walton stuff, anything by Douglas Walton, is going to be great because this guy is basically the cutting edge of informal logic. He has helped make it better. Right now, his main focus is on computer AI, and what they're trying to do, which will put me out of a job, I guess, is make a computer program that can analyze arguments for us. So you just throw the argument into the computer and it goes, no, here's what's wrong, and then you can fix it.
Ah,
So that would be great, and plus the computer would have AI and then take over the world, so that would not be so great. But oh well.
Skynet is rising.
I welcome our new computer overlords. They would run things better than I would. So,
At least,
those two books I would say are great. Great for learning logic and great for the logical fallacies. The formal ones are a lot harder to find. You have to really look at the mechanics and rules of logic to extract and extrapolate different formal fallacies. And those ones aren't as important because they're just for the technical nitty-grittiness of it. So they're important to me, but they wouldn't be important to a debate as much unless you were scoring based on who had more of those. Then it
yeah.
would be.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could give a brief explanation of a formal fallacy as opposed to a you just said it and my brain pooped out on me.
Informal. Sure, yeah, that's a great
Formal
question.
versus logical. There we go.
Yeah, formal fallacy versus informal fallacy. So there's a couple things to cover before I cover that, actually. There's formal logic, and then there's informal logic. Formal logic's got all those symbols that are hard as bleep to memorize and looks complicated as all get out. That's formal logic. It has the same rules as informal logic, but it's just called something different. And don't ask me anything more about formal logic because I just have started to try to learn it, and it's hard because of the symbols. um, Informal logic is the system, the philosophy of applying different rules to dialogue. And in our case, it would be focused on persuasionary dialogue. Although there's other types of dialogue, that would be the type of dialogue that you're engaging in if you're doing a debate. So if I want to debate you on whether or not the moon is made out of cheese or lobsters or whatever, this is a persuasionary dialogue where we each have to agree to the rules of informal logic. Um, and within those rules, you have the different what's called laws of logic. I like calling them rules instead because laws just gives the wrong vibe to some people, which is law of identity. A is A, can't be not A. You have disjunctive syllogism. It's A or it's B. It's not B, so it's A. You have hypothetical syllogism, and so on and so on and so on. And so an informal fallacy is when I make or you make a blunder regarding the premise itself commits one of these errors, whether it be a straw man is a great example because that's a very common one, where I misrepresent your argumentation and I make it into something else and I attack that argument instead of attacking your
I call
argument.
that the Met Slick.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. Well, that wasn't a debate, but yes, there was a lot of that going on. So, let's just say our argument's going to be on whether or not the moon is made out of cheese. I don't know why that's in my head right now, but that's what's in my head. And you want to say that it isn't made out of cheese, and you say, well, scientists.
Well, I know the moon's not made out of cheese, but it is ruled by lobsters.
Right.
I'm like that.
Well, you win that argument,
I
but
have evidence, but I'm not showing it to you.
but at any rate, you go to some scientific argument, and instead of reducing the science, I say, well, if you believe that the moon is not made out of cheese, then you're an evil, horrible person. That's an appeal to motion, and it's a poisoning of the well. It's two fallacies in one. And it's also a red herring and it's a straw man because not only am I not addressing your point, but I'm going off on a different tangent completely. So it's like four fallacies all in one. So once we identify those fallacies, we say, look, you just did this, 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 and this. It's like, oh, supposedly, in hypothetically speaking, the opponent should at that time say, I retract everything I just said. Now I'm going to rebut you with this logical statement that doesn't make those fallacies. The science is inaccurate because of X, Y, and Z, and actually these scientists have found out that the moon in fact is made out of cheese, and now I'm focusing on the science again, and we could debate that because we're in the right category, and we're citing authority, which in this case isn't invalid because we're in the field of science where we would have to cite authority to make our points. So that would be an example of the informal fallacies. I hope that the analogy didn't break down. If it did at all, please let me know so I can try a different tactic to get that through.
It made sense to me.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm loud enough or not. That's the.
I can hear you just fine. This little meter on the side is showing that you're voluming out full blast. So.
Yeah, I was being maybe a little bit too loud. The formal fallacies are the rules behind the scenes. So if we agree to only do 10-minute rebuttals and I run over by 16 minutes because I was too lazy to edit my own video, that's a formal fallacy of breaking the agreed upon rules of the debate. So there has to be some concession from the person that did that formal fallacy to make up for it. Because I went over by 6 minutes, my opponent should get at least 6 minutes more. In that case, I actually. Huh?
I call that the Ken Ham.
well, I actually did act. Yeah, I say it because I did it myself. I did go over by 6 minutes, and only when my opponent pointed it out, I was kicking myself because I rendered the video. I didn't even think about, editing it for some stupid reason. I was just like, oh, it's done, whatever. It's just laziness prevailed in that moment. And I didn't just give him 6 minutes. I actually gave him, I think, a full 10 minutes more to do with whatever he wanted. So I overdid what needed to be done to cover that formal fallacy. So the formal fallacies, again, they don't make your argument any weaker. They just indicate that you screwed up, either because you didn't know enough about logic or just because you're human and humans screw up. In my case, it's because I'm human and not because I don't know better, but a lot of people make the formal errors because they just don't know better. For example, if I asked you to tell me what a hypothetical syllogism is, you probably wouldn't be able to do that off the top of your head. Maybe you could, but if I asked you,
No, no, I'm gonna Google that shit.
you're gonna Google that. Or if I asked you what is the negative rules of persuasionary dialogue, you probably wouldn't know off the top of your head. And so the formal fallacies come into play when somebody breaks one of those behind the scenes rules, if you will. And they're only again important because it's the nitty gritty of it. You know, it's the difference between an A plus paper and an A paper, if you will. So you're saying something over here. What are you saying over here? Oh, nothing. Okay.
Me? I'm saying
No,
absolutely.
I'm sorry. That was blinking over on the other side, and never mind. It wasn't anything.
Oh, that was probably me. I have some cough medicine here that I'm shaking up.
No. Never mind. Blah, blah, blah. So hopefully that explains the difference between formal and informal fallacy. And then I have personally developed what I call probabilistic fallacy, which is completely made up by me, and it will not be a thing in logic unless I publish a book, and even then it might not be accepted. So the idea of a probabilistic fallacy is that it comes to a point where I'm like, this could be a fallacy, but also it might not be. So I can't tell because it is so weirdly worded that because of natural language, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to call it a probabilistic fallacy, and I kind of go, okay, that gets a parenthesis 1. So it's not really a fallacy. And then later on, if they do X, then it will become a fallacy. So, uh, well, okay, yeah, sure. I am writing a book. It's nowhere near done yet, but I am working on it. I have told people about this. I don't know if I could plug it yet because it's not for sale yet. So I'll tell you guys when I have my book, and then you can go buy it.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you mentioning it a couple videos back, so I was just wondering if you'd like to let people know they can pay
Uh,
attention, maybe subscribe to your channel to
yeah, that's really where to find all my stuff is Deconverted Man on YouTube. I believe it's Deconverted Man 1 is the actual
Yes.
channel name. And that I totally did that to myself because I somehow created Deconverted Man, and then Google decided that I was Deconverted Man 1 because I already created Deconverted Man, and I'm like, well, how do I no be and it wouldn't let me do it, so whatever.
Oh well.
Yeah. I was like, whatever, I don't care anymore.
If you Google the Talking Wallflower, you'll actually come up with a different channel because I created the Talking Wallflower at one point and then forgot my password and forgot to do password recovery on it.
Yeah, that will kill you. There's yeah. So it's a thing. But for the Infinite Hope stuff, a few people have expressed a little bit of interest in me debating myself, as it were. I do have many videos of me as Infinite Hope, and they'll come into play if appropriate. I did it once, way back when so it might come back again. I don't know yet. I haven't found a time and place for it because it's like, well, I'm just talking to myself. I'm talking at myself and complaining to my past self. I might cover my video that because it's so similar to a lot of the arguments I've heard lately. I might put up my argument that I called the avatar of self, and I thought that this was a great, fantastic argument for theism, and it sounds so great, but it isn't. So
Well,
yeah, that might be a thing.
that would be very interesting. Um, I understand that other than just the fallacies, you also do these neat little segments called 1 Minute Skeptic.
Yeah, the 1 Minute Skeptic I came up with kind of as a counter to the 1 Minute Apologist series that they have, although I don't know if they're still doing the 1 Minute Apologist as much as they were. And
This
of
is
course,
the first time I've ever heard of it.
yeah, the 1 Minute Apologist, I mean, they've had Craig, they've had Cross. They've had, not Cross. Linux. They've had all the big names on it, and they often go more than a minute. But the idea is, you have like a minute to tell the world about God. How are you going to say this? Blah blah blah. And so they ask them a preloaded question for them to answer, and then they proceed to answer that question rather quickly, and they get their sound bites, and the person that is talking is promoted, they're promoted, everybody wins, and there you go. And it's quick, and it's a sound bite, and it's like 2, 3, 4 minutes long, whatever it is. So it's enough to get your feeling on. If you're a theist that desperately needs to fix your cognitive dissonance, you can flip on the 1 minute apologists and go, oh, okay, everything's better now. And I did just that when I was a theist myself, so I speak from experience, although your taste may vary. So I thought, well, let's do the 1 minute skeptic, and I'll just have, I'll just do the same thing, but I'll actually make it a real minute, except for the intro. Like the answer will be at least a minute long. Sometimes it can go a little bit longer, but I'll try to get everyone to do it within like a minute, literally. So not only will it actually be closer to what the title is called, but it will be answering skeptical questions. Now, I've learned two things from this. One, people come up with great answers. Secondly, coming up with questions is actually kind of hard. And third, which I only learned two things, so this doesn't count, is that I like to delay until the last possible minute to make things. So, so that's the three things that I didn't count correctly of skeptic 1 minute.
You mentioned the term cognitive dissonance, and my ADD is going to kick this off into a whole new tangent now.
Very well.
Because cognitive dissonance is actually a very good YouTube channel and also a very good podcast. So are there any YouTube channels or podcasts that you regularly listen to?
I try to watch every one of my subscriptions at least once. Sometimes I don't get to do that, but I try desperately. And that list is extremely long. So off the top of my head, and I don't want to...
I'm looking at it right now. That is a holy fuck of a list here.
Yeah, I off the top of my head, yeah, I have 330 subscriptions. So thankfully, not everybody loads stuff up, but I would say Armored Skeptic. Whenever he's on, I'll always listen to him.
That guy's hilarious.
I like Alex Button most of the time. Let's see who updates a lot or who does a lot. Aaron Raw, whenever he has something, is great. I like the Atheism is Unstoppable. I think it does something different, and so that's kind of why I like it. Of course, all the big names like King Crocoduck and stuff like this. I found that a top Auto Psi 87 is pretty interesting. Yeah, however you say it, I can't pronounce it.
Auto Psi, yeah, Auto Psi.
Yeah. Let's see who. That's kind of the reason for the 1 minute skeptic, is to kind of shout out or shout in all these different people that I know that don't get a lot of attention. I really enjoyed listening to Capricious Black Box. I really wanted to do something with him, but we never could make it happen for some reason. A lot of the people I'm subscribed to are just text commenters, so I can't comment on them. Carnades.org.
They're doing a wonderful Paradox series right now.
Yes, is making my head hurt. I'm loving it. Dark Matter, of course, big names like this. Deity Free D. I will listen to her whenever I can. The vlog, whatever you want to call it, style of YouTube is something that, this kind of counts as that, and I've done that a few times. She does it in a way that is interesting to me. So, and
is that No Deity? I believe she also does a thing.
I don't know. It's just know her as Deity Free D. and she's really what I would say anti-theistic,
Yeah, that
which can,
sounds like no deity.
yeah, but in a good way, because some people do it in a very negative way. I think she does it in a positive way. Essence of Thought's really great.
I was waiting for that one.
Finite Atticus, of course, Finite Atticus, even though he's a turtlist, Foxhole Atheist. He is a turtlist, and I won that debate. Foxhole Atheist has been showing up more often, and I've been catching a few of his things every now and then. Of course, Satan Atheist. Of course, I love him, her, it, robot, whatever it is. I don't know. I love Satan Atheist, and I want to marry them, but they're taken. So, oh well, whatever. Harry Ray is another good guy. We're trying to work on something together, and we're being very lazy about it. Herc rants. I mean, I could just go on. Basically, if I'm subscribed, they're probably cool. And
Yeah.
I try to watch their videos. John Smith, gotta mention John Smith because
Love John Smith. I
yeah,
love Satan. Satan is the greatest.
yes, he appeared in my video even though I didn't believe in him. Karen S, of course, gotta love Karen S. She was absolutely a delight to talk to and meet in real life. That was great. I'm really glad that we got to do that. You know, I liked Logic. I wish I could do something with him. I think Lonely Naturalist hasn't done anything in a while. A lot of these names I just don't hear from a lot anymore. Lord Shockwave 94. I haven't been watching his stuff as late. I told him, I want you to not go after this one guy anymore, and he keeps going after him, which I understand, but I just don't want to watch it, So I'll skip videos I don't want to watch because I know what they're about. Martimer 81, I wish I could talk with his weird accent. It's really cool.
Yeah, I have no idea where he's from, but
Yeah.
him and a few other guys actually do a Trolling with Logic series. They're starting it back up again. So you might want to look into that. That's actually pretty cool. They're really long, but if you have the time.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I don't want to leave anyone out. I mean, I could literally read off all my subscribers. I guess I'll drop in Molecular, whose name I can never pronounce. I'll just call him Mike. We're going to be doing a crossover soonish, as soon as I figure out what the bleep to do with the video they wanted me to look at. Of course, I'd recommend Minute Earth, Minute Physics, Vsauce, and bleep, scishow. Those are
Yes.
those are good.
The Hank Green's whole deal with scishow and they have another one, scishow Space. He's also a great musician.
Scishow Space, right. I just subscribed to that recently.
If you like music, you should look up Hank Green, one of the hosts from scishow.
Yeah.
He has a band that's all like real geeky, nerdy music. I think my favorite song from him is he has a 10-word song that he won some award for, and I actually cover it when I play shows sometimes. So.
I think and one more shout out, Prudent Discourse and Robin Duper Reed. Okay, that was two. I lied again. Hey, how's it going? Shut up.
You're really good with that formal fallacy committing shit, huh?
That would be an informal one.
Informal, whatever.
Not whatever.
Cough medicine.
Yeah, I won't shout out Steve Shines until he shouts me out. Dang it. And the Bible Reloaded. You too. The Bible Reloaded. You guys suck until you shout me out too. Dang it.
Yep.
In fact, that's my new policy. No more shout-outs until you shout me out now. I'm kidding. But, Toby Could Major. Okay, I'm done. I'm seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you know what I tend to actually listen to. I don't really do too much of the logical stuff like you do. I'm more along the lines of deity free, where it's more of a I don't want to say anti-theist, but more like anti-theocratic, because I'm totally against the whole God and government thing. But if you're ever interested in what religions actually think of, you should look up Thomas and the Bible. which is a skeptic who goes through and reads the Bible, the Christian Holy Bible. And he's also a professional comedian, which makes it freaking hilarious. Along the same lines, you also have Quranify Me, and he hasn't been reading the Quran so much recently, but he has been doing a lot of interviews and activism that is worth looking into. There was a man, it actually ended up making the news thanks to him and a few other people, that was arrested for, he was put in a mental institution in Nigeria for being an atheist.
Oh.
And they ended up getting him and a bunch of other patients freed from there.
Wow, that's... What?
Yeah. If you get
How
a
could
chance,
that
look
even
it up.
be
It's
a
called
thing?
Quranify Me.
What was it again?
Quranify Me.
Oh,
Quranify.
Put it in the magic window. Oh yeah, but
Well, I'm
spelled...
letting everybody else know too.
Right, sorry.
Quranfyme. Quranify Me. You can find his YouTube channel here, and you can also find his podcasts through his website and Spreaker and all that good stuff. And another one that deals with one of the bigger religions here in the United States is called My Book of Mormon. And all three of those are readings of those holy texts by skeptics.
Yeah, that probably would be something I'd want to look into. Although I might want to just read it myself first before hearing a
No, you
commentary
don't.
on it. You know,
Trust me. No, you don't.
they're
It's
so
totally
boring.
not worth it.
That's why when I was inspired by the lobster original deity to write the Lobster Bible, it was so short so it wouldn't be boring.
Yes.
And it totally wasn't made up by me at all. It was all the lobster.
It was the lobster speaking through you.
Yeah.
In your own words and your own writing style.
It is done, so I need to figure out where to put this thing online so people can read it. It's like yes, this is a thing now. I'm gonna make my own religion called Lobsterist. Whatever, I don't even...
Hey, it'll work. If they can have a flying spaghetti monster, you can have a lobster.
He was eaten by my lobster, so
No more skitty monster.
no more skitty monster.
If you like sciencey stuff, you might also want to look up the Imaginary Friend show. Mostly because they're all Australian, or I think one of them might be from New Zealand. So they all sound like Ken Ham and Banana Man. What the f- is Banana Man's name?
Ray Comfort.
That guy, Banana Man. Now in my brain, I'm now hearing Banana Man, banana. It's for your hand.
I think someone did that, actually. I was going to say for music, because you had mentioned music earlier, the Symphony of Science is just fantastic.
Yes, I'll have to look them up.
Yes, there's several different ones, but yeah, that's a great thing.
Okay. Well, if we have... What time is it now?
Is there anyone on the thing?
No, not right now. They're all busy. They can watch later.
No one cares. Got it.
No one gives a fuck.
Well, I would say that things are things. That was the in this debate that I just wrapped up with this theist, that this idea of fine tuning, and this has come up so many times and been knocked down. I think that I think it was Douglas Adams, but it might have been someone else who said something like that you're looking at it as if you're the water in a puddle, thinking how wonderful that this area has been made just for you. You know, that the indentation in the ground.
Hello?
Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here. Hold on.
I got mega feedback or something.
Yeah, no, you got my phone ringing. Give me 1 sec.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want dead air, so I'm just gonna talk about Pokemon. I used to play Pokemon.
Well, what you were just talking about, was that the talk that totally was not a debate with Slickwick
No.
or Rick Slick? Okay, good.
No, This was an actual debate. But at any rate, that the Douglas Adams, somebody like him, I don't know. What I'm not looking it up. I'm trying to do it pure from memory. Was that imagine your water in a puddle, and you're saying that this puddle is designed just for you. That's basically what the fine-tuning argument is trying to do. That the indentation in the ground was made not to fit the water. The water made the indentation in the ground. So you're looking at it backwards, basically. And that's what we do with a lot of things is we are so geared to think agency. We're so geared to think in this way that it's very hard to look at something so awesome like the universe and not just go, well, that had to be made by something bigger. And I was looking at this BBC documentary on these hunters that still hunt in this old-fashioned way of just running down the animal until it wears out, and they had this ritual that they would do to thank the animal for his life. And it's like, oh yeah, every time I see something like that, I remember that this idea that we have of deities or agency is part of humanity. And those who believe,
Well,
you
I
know,
think that's actually a flawed thought, because there have been tribes, quite a few actually in South America, that had no
oh
concept.
yeah, there is, but it's the exception to the bell curve.
It's the exception to the norm.
Yeah, why I said, but yeah, norm or bell curve. But what I was gonna say is that that we have to understand that is behind all of these debates and arguments and everything else is they have a thing in their brain that we somehow escaped or didn't have in our brain that says this is how things are. So we don't know because we don't have the instruments yet to detect it. Where we don't know if that person does or doesn't have that thing in their brain. But we have to understand that it's potentially there, and that should hopefully enable us to have civilized discussions and debates. Although there is a time, absolutely, I think a time for anti-theism and stuff like this, because there are people out there that aren't just ignorant, but deliberately and woefully ignorant. I won't mention names, G-Man. So,
Well,
there are some people that need to be decimated, but
Josh Fernstein.
you know, others not so much. But at any rate, I wanted to end on a kind of positive note. That's all I've got. I don't have anything more, so I mean, I could talk about random things if you want, but
No, I think that covers it. I was just looking for a general idea of who you are, how you came about what you're doing, and all that good, wonderful stuff.
great. Now we
Um,
analyze time cube because that's what I do when I run out of stuff. No.
well, if you have any questions for me, I'd be more than willing to answer them.
Women, just question mark after that. Women question mark.
I have a rule, okay, and this might come out a little bit weird to some people, especially people who frequent certain sites about X-rated hamsters and hubs of pornography. BBC. Bitches be crazy. That's all there is to it. I've never met a single woman who was sane. But at the same time, I've never met a single man who was sane. So really, it should be people be crazy.
All right.
Don't try and figure them out.
Yeah. Well, I
All
want
the
to meet.
advice you ever find on the internet will be wrong.
Yeah. The thing is, I want to encounter a hermaphrodite because that would be like really cool. I don't know. I'd be like, oh hey, you know everything because like you're both. So
Well,
what's
the
that like?
closest I know a couple of trans people.
No. That doesn't count. You got to be born that way to know everything.
Well, the way I understand it is the body did not match the brain at birth, so.
Yeah. But I I just look, man, it's my dream. Don't ruin my dream. anyways, anyways, I'm just joking. All right. Well, thanks for this. This was cool. I hope it does something for whatever. And as always, unless and until we have a logically coherent argument, we must continue to be skeptical of the conclusions.
Okie dokie. Nice talking to you. Maybe one day we can go out for pizza and beers and talk about women and lobsters.
All right.
Also, check the little magic box. I left you a link to a video I think you'll like.
All right. Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Deconverted Man, and I'm going to drop him from the feed. Goodbye, Deconverted Man. Are you sure you want to eject Deconverted Man? Yes, eject Deconverted Man. So that was Deconverted Man, and now you all know who he is. Hopefully that gives you some incentive to look up some of the people that he talked about and himself. I very highly recommend him for anybody who is researching logical fallacies, because as you can tell, he actually does seem to know quite a bit more than a lot of the apologists and even some of the counter apologists that I've met before. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been the Talking Wallflower. Goodbye and stay logical.